Hey, welcome to Old Ass Movie Reviews. I'm Scott. There's Dave right next to me, and we are going back to 1979 to the television event of Salem's Lot, Stephen King's epic masterpiece, maybe? I don't know. Movie-wise, not so much a masterpiece. I love the book, and this adaptation is actually really solid. This was the first time that you have seen it, correct?
It is the first time I saw it, because as a kid, it always looked way too scary for me to watch. And I honestly went into that. I'm an old guy now, folks. And I went into it with thinking this is just going to be terrifying. I'm going to be terrified through this whole movie. No. Creepy moments in this movie, though. I had a couple of really creepy moments in this movie. You want me to just
go ahead.
Okay.
Tell me what you thought.
I like this movie. If you are a vampire fan, monster fan, I recommend this movie. I recommend this movie as much as I recommend the first television adaptation of It.
Nice.
That's a good movie. It's creepy. It's weird. It's, crazy clown guy. And my personal taste for It was, what's his name as It, as the clown?
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, yeah. Much better clown, in my opinion. Much better creepy clown.
It's different. It's different. The remake of It just it was missing something for me.
Yeah.
I get that people really liked it, and Bill Skarsgård makes a really creepy Pennywise, but it is what it is. I like the original, and I think it's a nostalgia thing.
And I like it had David Soul in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. Starsky and Hutch?
Yeah.
All the way. He wasn't a bright guy. He
couldn't even shut the door to his Jeep.
I did like that as a recurring thing, though. Every time he'd shut his door, the Jeep door would pop open. That had to be.
It got to be so. It happened so damn much. I was looking for it.
Yeah,
and I think when they made it, they probably just let it go. It's like, fuck it.
He
can't shut the door.
Yeah, the fourth time he shut it, they were probably just let it go.
Just fucking
it's not
drive,
your real
man.
vehicle. Just walking. It opens with him showing back up to Salem's Lot, and it used to be called Jerusalem's Lot, I think.
Jerusalem's Lot,
town. Yeah. So he shows up. He's looking at the house. I forgot the name of the house.
The Marston House.
Marston House. And he's standing out there, and it's all creepy. And it's very misleading. A lot of the little things that happen in this movie were misleading. I thought the character knew a lot more of what was going on than was going on. Maybe it was all answered in the book. I never read the book. Not a huge Stephen King fan. I've tried to read a couple of his books. I set him down and just shook my head and went, I don't know how this man makes money.
I've done that with a few of his, but there's a few, and this is one of them that is amazing. Yeah.
I was going to say, that's me. I do like his one book on writing. Okay, tie right over, pushing that to the side. This movie I liked. However, there was a scene because they talk about David Soul's.
That would have been a whole different movie with Chris Farley showing up as Straker. Would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Or even Barlow as Chris Farley as Mr. Barlow.
Would have been Barlow.
That would have been a wide fucking coffin.
God, that would have been funny. God, that would have been a good movie.
Okay,
anyway,
look, real talk. We're talking about spoofing Salem's Lot.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that there's a new police squad in the works.
Who's going to play the part of?
It's rumored to be Liam Neeson. I can actually see it. Because Leslie Nielsen was such a straight actor. So I could see it. But I don't know. It's like, can we just leave it alone?
Just re-release the movies.
Thank you. I'm with you there. Now, back to Salem's Lot.
Yeah. Okay, back to Salem's Lot. Pushing that to the side for another conversation. We're putting in Salem's Lot back in.
Sorry.
There was just something that never came up in the movie. And you said you read the book?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you remember. David Soul's character, his wife, had died. Supposedly, he says, in a car accident.
Yeah.
I assumed that he was hunting these guys at one point. And then it seems like that hunting, like I thought maybe they killed his wife and he was going after him like,
that would have been a good take.
But that never came up, and I'm like, wait, what happened? What happened here?
I don't remember what happened to his wife, and they only briefly talk about his obsession with the Marston house. As a kid, like on a dare, he went in there and he saw Hubie Marston hanging. That's all in the book, and they briefly talk about it there.
Right.
And then near the end, they show he's got some serious PTSD. Oh fuck, I got to go in this house. You know.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to go in that house.
And I wouldn't want to go in that house either. But no, they really. I don't recall if it touches on in the book.
Okay, I was just curious. But I felt like that was a missed point. Like, if you're going to change the movie so much anyway, make this guy hunting Barlow.
Mm-hmm. That would have been cool.
At some point, can we ever just, if I have to write this movie with you, or even if I have to write it alone, I'm going to write a movie where the good guy finds out where the vampire is, and instead of waiting until nighttime, goes in there during the day.
Dude.
And I don't know, maybe burns down the house.
Dude.
Just burn the fucking house. A couple of Molotov cocktails through the window. Burn that mother. Then stand outside with a stake and some garlic garlic all the way around the house. I don't know. The holy salt all the way around the house. The holy water in a
They always go into the vampire's lair 30 minutes before sundown.
Right.
Excuse me?
Right. All the time.
One of the best I've seen is John Carpenter's Vampires with James Wood and
I want to see that. That's
Stephen Baldwin.
HBO, I think.
You will love it.
Yeah.
It opens up. They're hunters working for the church, and they actually use like harpoons, and they go into the dark areas. They shoot or stab the vampires with a harpoon that's tied to a cable. It was just hooked to a winch on a truck and drag the bitches out into the sunlight. And it's like, it's fucking awesome.
That's a great idea. There you go. That's how you hunt vampires. That's how you do it.
You'll love it. I recommend Vampires. It's a cool fucking flick.
But when he realized finally that all the shit was coming down, and that it was a vampire, why wouldn't you just go burn this house down?
Yeah.
Even the sheriff knew and was leaving town. At that point, you go just burn the fucking house down. Nobody's gonna arrest you for it.
No, the sheriff was a smart motherfucker. I'm gone, bitches.
Took him a long time to okay, I want to go back to the beginning. The kid was a big character actor at that point. I don't even know if this kid's still alive. I can't think of his name right off.
I've seen him in so many things.
I didn't pull his name up. But while I'm talking, I'm going to try and pull up IMDb.
Yeah,
I didn't do that yet.
Well, while you're doing that, we'll talk about the character. I think it's Matt. Matt was the name, was it? Or Mark?
I think that was the kid's name,
yeah. It really goes into a lot of Mark in the book. To me, seemed to be a more main character, along with Ben Mears. So you got a lot of book time with Mark. So the movie, I felt, didn't showcase a lot of him. They did a thing. One of the things that really stuck with my book is, and maybe Stephen King wrote too much about it, was Mark's ability to get out of knots. I mean,
they showed him doing magic tricks with his dad. And
they made a quick thing of that, but it was more in detail. So when he's tied up like that, you know exactly how he gets out because he's been practicing that for a long time.
Yeah, I like that.
So
you're half expecting the kid to do it.
Yeah.
Lance Kerwin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I like about this is you can tell it's a TV movie.
Yeah.
And it was spread over a couple nights. So you have the first night or first two or whatever, just building all of this. You're getting to know the people. It's not a lot going on. And I think that's why they put that scene at the beginning.
Yeah.
Of them down in Mexico being hunted, which I think is different from the book.
There.
Yeah. So it got you like, what is going on? And just real quick, the only difference is really, and this is spoilers, people.
Yeah. Spoilers.
At the end in the book, they actually run to Mexico for like a year and then come back to burn Salem's Lot to the ground. They don't take care of everything, I think, right then and there.
Really?
They don't get all the vampires there. Now, they allude to this in the movie, in the TV series, that the wind is blowing toward town and everything. Because in the book, what we saw in the movie, was, all the vampires were hanging out in Barlow's cellar. But in the
Mhm.
book, they're under every crawl space, every house. By the time the book ends, there's hundreds upon hundreds of vampires. The whole town is just consumed.
Oh
And
shit!
that's what kind of what they alluded to. So I mean, you
Right.
can only do so much. And I really enjoy this ending of them turning out to be hunters, basically.
Yeah.
And seeing Susan at the end, I completely forgot about that. It's like, oh, that was a nice touch.
I was expecting her to show back up. I really
Yeah.
was. And then when she did, I was like, oh, those eyes are going to pop open, dude. And he knew. I mean, he already knew. And I liked him going in for the kiss, and then you just see the steak.
Yes.
That was a good touch. There's
Great
a lot.
contacts.
There is a lot that I liked about this movie. With that said, this movie could have had a good solid 30 minutes of drive time taken out of it.
Yes.
And when I say drive time, folks, I
Look,
don't
he's
mean
driving
like
again.
just sitting around and talking. I mean actual drive time, people in a car
Yeah,
driving.
there was a lot of it. There was a lot of it.
With nothing going on. Now, the reason they did that, obviously, was like Scott said, back in the 70s, you had 3 networks. You had made-for-TV movies. You had mini events like Salem's Lot, which was a 2-night deal.
Yeah.
You had the spread. I mean, you had the...
And that's why
Evidently, they didn't have the writers at that point that could have made this even more interesting, which I find really hard to believe because it was right there in Hollywood. But
yeah,
what are you going to do? But there's a lot of drive. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of hands on the steering wheel and looking around, you know, as you're driving. And I'm thinking to myself, I looked over at Kat and said, is it just me? Is it a lot of just driving in this movie?
Lots of driving. Lots of driving.
Other than that, I liked it. The pace was slow, and I think if you took I think you could edit this. I think you could do what the one fan did to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Edit it, make it a little bit more compact, and make it more boom, 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 more action packed. And I think you get more jittery out of it.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm actually excited for the rumors of a remake that keeps getting pushed back. But I'm actually, my stance on remakes in Hollywood have changed. As long as you've given it enough time, don't do it the next year. I think it's fair game because everybody can have a chance to make something better. And if they do something better or something different, I'm good. If it's shit, well, damn, why'd you waste your time on that?
Right.
You know,
right.
So I have my fingers crossed. There was in the not in the 80s, in the early 2000s, I think they might have they did another TV event with Rob Lowe as the Ben Mears character.
Yeah, you were saying that. I want to see that one because Rob
I don't remember it. I remember not liking it, but it may also be Stephen King at one point was, what's that?
I said that it was Rob Lowe.
You know, he was kind of a big deal at the time. Stephen King has got a habit of not liking his movie adaptations.
Right.
And I get it as a creator. I mean, hell, just look at Alan Moore. That's a great thing to read about.
Yeah. Well,
yes, that's a whole
shut up
other
and
podcast.
Cash the check, Alan, is what I always like to say.
Yeah.
Real quick on Alan Moore. He needs an editor. I love Alan Moore stuff. But that man, if anybody in the comic book world ever needed an editor for what I call diarrhea of the mouth, it's Alan Moore. I love him. I think he's a really good editor.
He's very
creative. A really good writer. He just needs an editor with the cojones to say, Alan, you got to edit about 40 pages out of this.
We bring that up a lot. Everybody needs good editor friends.
I think you do. I think you have to have somebody willing to say, no, you're not the genius you think. You are a genius, but you're not the genius you think you are.
Yeah. But back to Salem's Lot.
Yes,
there was a time frame where Stephen King went through and they redid The Shining as a made for TV thing.
Yeah.
And then they did Salem's Lot. And I personally love the TV adaptation of The Shining, and I don't like Stanley Kubrick's. Oh my God, send the hate mail.
Not my favorite director.
No,
not my favorite director at all.
To me, the remake of The Shining held to the book so close and felt like Stephen King, whereas the Stanley Kubrick one does not feel like a Stephen King movie at all.
Right.
Salem's Lot does feel like a Stephen King story through and through. And so the remake may be, but that's a whole nother thing. I like this old.
I liked it.
I collect antiques
Uh-huh.
and mid-century 60s, 70s, 50s.
Yeah.
And just looking in the background, I love watching these movies. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
look at the sets, look at all of this. It's just, and the clothes and
Yeah,
everything and the
some of that
cars.
stuff was just. Look, here's something I felt out of place, and maybe it was covered in the book. The affair going on between the real estate agent and his secretary.
Herb Tarlick.
Yeah, Herb Tarlick. No, it wasn't Herb Tarlick. He
It
was
wasn't. He sure looked like Herb.
no, he was he does. But he's the guy that
I've
was
seen that
on.
guy a lot.
Yeah. You know what? I got his name right
Yeah.
here. Hold on.
That
He was on Fernwood Tonight. He was the sidekick on Fernwood Tonight, which was a fake talk show.
Huh.
It was a spoof talk show back in the day, back in the 70s. And I just gotta find his name.
That particular scene, I know what you're saying. It seems out of place, but it
Fred
again,
Willard.
Yeah.
Fred Willard. Real People or something like that too.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's one of those things that it's like the drive time. We need some stories. I do believe all of that is in the book because Stephen King has a tendency to write everything that's in front of his eyes, in his mind's eye, and it gets very descriptive and sometimes very wordy, like a lot of authors tend to do. So there was a lot of exposition probably on that as well.
Yeah, it just seemed really out of place in this movie. Like if I think Willard does wind up becoming a vampire, but it just seemed like there was something bigger going to happen with the guy and his wife. Like maybe they were both going to get turned, or she was going to get turned and kill the husband. Or again, it seemed like there was a missed opportunity with those two. That I can't blame her for having the affair, and I can't blame him for him being pissed off about it either. Yeah. So, but that's a whole nother story. It just seemed really awkward. It just seemed like, here, let's wedge this into the story, right? It'll fit
and that may have
into a round hole.
Yeah, that maybe had to do with the editing or whatnot from that. So one of the things about this is an interesting bit. It's directed by Tobe Hooper, known for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and his thumbprints are all over this series. There is so much. Yes, it's the 70s, so a lot of gore is not going to be present. A lot of violence is not going to be seen. But that's one of the things to me that makes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre so effective and makes this effective. Everything is done off screen. All the kills, everything. You don't see a thing, but your brain puts it all together and makes it
all in.
And it does a good job of it. Yeah. So I actually appreciate that. While, hey, bring the gore. I love to see it. I think it's really cool. But man, you want to freak me out? Don't show me.
You want to freak somebody out? Have a little kid floating by a window, scratching at the window, and just going back and forth.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
I like the effect. The creepy. It's really creepy.
Let me in. Look at me.
The effect was done really cool because the mist machine behind him, the fog machine,
was perfect.
Blown. And as the kid starts coming through the window, it starts reversing. And I was like, that's interesting. Because if you're not paying attention, and I was looking at that kid, anytime one of the kids went through the window, they had to do everything backwards. Yeah. But when they're running it forward, that kid looked like he was moving the way he was supposed to be moving towards the other kid. Now, it seems like it would be real easy to do it all in reverse, but that had to, I wonder how many takes they had to do before they found the take that they wanted.
Oh, yeah. Those are some... Let me get to that because when anybody thinks of Salem's Lot, they think of the Glick boys floating outside the window, scratching on the glass. I read this book in the 70s. I was very young, and I remember the wind blowing and a tree next to my window scratching the glass. That is why this story has such a spot in my heart, because as a wee lad, I was terrified.
Well, yeah,
I was absolutely terrified by that. Before I ask you, I'll tell you, there's one scene in this movie that gets me to this day and still sends chills down my fucking spine. And I think it's Mike, the gravedigger, sitting in a rocking chair after he'd been buried.
That is creepy as hell.
I have not seen a scene like that in a movie since.
And his
I'm just
eyes are
saying.
still, and his eyes are glowing. They've
That
got those
actor-
contact lenses in there that are picking up the ambient light perfectly.
That actor's movement and delivery was wonderful in that.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap, dude, you brought it and scared the shit out of me even today.
Yeah, me and the old lady were sitting there watching it, and we both looked at each other and went, that is a creepy scene. That would have scared the shit out of me as a little kid.
Yes, it would have.
I'd have been up and out of the room as a little kid. I'd have been like, oh no, I'm done. We're done here.
Janine was telling me after that scene, they ran next door to their grandma's house at night screaming.
Kat said she ran across the street from her friend's house when the little Glick boy is at the window. She called up her mom, I'm coming home. Open the door. And mom's like, what? Like opening the door, still on the phone. And Kat's running across the street. Coming home.
Hell with this.
We're done. We're done here.
Yeah.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Fucking vampire, you're going to catch my ass.
I would like to think that you could take any kid that was our age when this came out and put it in front. It's going to scare him, I think.
I think so.
I've been desensitized to a lot of stuff. It's not nearly as frightening, but it's still creepy as hell, man.
And I think what would really creep them out the most is the fact that it's so milk toast through a lot of it. And then when something weird happens, it's like just a little weird. Now we're getting a little bit weirder. Now the Glick boy's at the window.
Yeah. Once this movie hits the halfway point,
yeah, that's when it turns on.
They push the pedal all the way down and it just goes nonstop. I watched the first half one night and it's like, okay, I'm stopping. We'll watch the intense shit the next night.
Right.
And it worked. It worked well like that.
And I was pretty happy. I went through the whole thing in one shot.
Oh, that's
because
cool.
I was at one point. I think I was a little under the halfway mark, right before it picked up. I think I texted you and it was like, "There's a lot of driving in this."
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I was like, "There's a lot of driving going on here. What the hell am I watching?" Not what I was expecting at all. But there's a lot of buildup, so you have to be prepared to be bored to an extent, but pay attention because little things are going to come back.
It's well written.
Yeah.
The screenplay is well done. The changes made are good. It's just, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. My take on it. I love this story. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love vampire stories. I can watch vampire stories all the time. They're cool. Uses a lot of the same mythos about garlic and sunlight and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really good. I think it's a must watch. Go find it. My only complaint, and I haven't looked, is I have a Blu-ray of it and it's still in 4:3 made for TV mode,
Right.
And I'm so used to seeing everything in widescreen cinema, like you would see in the theater. And that was that took me out of it for about the first 5 minutes. And after that, it was fine. But it would have been nice to have it. And it wasn't super clean. I'm so used to seeing Blu-rays and DVDs that have been just remastered and cleaned up.
Right.
This was nice, but it was no extras on the Blu-ray at all. Just the trailer. And it's like,
that was probably before they started adding all that, right?
No, I don't know. It's on Blu-ray. People were adding all that shit to DVDs. So so it is a no frills Blu-ray. There may be new releases out there, but the one I got was but still worth a watch. Yeah,
this is a good movie, and I would say it's worth a purchase if you like vampire movies. If you like, this is kind of a niche thing. Let's talk about Barlow. I'm looking for Barlow on the cast. He's not listed. They don't list the actor. They got David Soul, James Mason, Lance Kerwin, Bonnie Bedelia with Susan Norton, Lou Ayres, Julie Cobb, Elijah Cook Jr., who is the old drunk, George Zunda, Ed Flanders.
I had seen George in a lot of movies.
Oh yeah, he's a big time character actor. Ed Flanders was a doctor on St. Elsewhere. Clarissa K. Mason.
Okay.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Reggie Nalder. Oh my God! No wonder they picked him. I don't know if this is gonna show very well.
Is that the actor?
That's the actor. And it's not a good picture because of the glare, but you can see his facial structure.
Oh yeah. He's not even listed on IMDb.
Wow.
Okay.
Reggie Nalder. as Kurt
Reggie
Barlow.
Reggie Nelder.
Nelder.
Nelder was Nelder. Been there, done that. You're not even paying attention.
I heard you. Nailed her. Richie, yeah. But and then I almost forgot about Higgins. I'm sorry, Straker.
Straker, yeah.
Sorry, I had a Magnum PI moment watching that. It's like, oh my God, he looks like Higgins.
Yeah, but that's James Mason.
Yeah.
Very, very, very British actor. He was in the original. Was it the original or what? No, it was the Force 10 from Navarone.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the British guys. See, they always come back to visit. If you watch enough old movies with me, dude, you're gonna always get these guys.
Yeah, I've been seeing quite a few people return.
Kenneth McMillan was the constable. Fred Willard. Mary Windsor was Eva Miller. That was the one that was running the
boarding house. It was married to Weasel.
Eva Miller was a character name. Eva, another Eva. Barbara Babcock, Bonnie Bartlett, and Joshua Bryant. I don't know who Ted Petrie was. I don't remember a guy named Ted Petrie. But that's okay. But that was the cast. David Soul was a really good choice, especially back then. He was a good, because everybody knew he was the good guy when he walked on stage.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knew who to root for.
And that's one of the things at the beginning of the movie. You didn't know exactly what was going on because, he would just. I'm surprised Straker didn't stop and say, "Can I help you? You're staring at my house."
Why wouldn't you?
I would have.
If you want to just blend in and not be brought, you'd be like, "Yeah, can I help you? Is there something I can help you with? Are you a salesman?" You know. They just stare at each other and don't say anything. And I'm like, if I was Straker and that was my house, I'd be like, "Hey, dude, seriously, I know it's the 70s, but what the fuck?"
Yeah.
You know, house isn't for sale and I don't do tours. Go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then David Soul probably his character wouldn't have thought twice about the house. He would have probably been like, "Oh, okay, we're good."
No, I think that's why more of his backstory would have been better.
Yeah.
To help the viewers see why he's so obsessed. It comes very late in the story, so it's like it doesn't have the same effect. If we could have had a flashback to a young Ben Mears, I think would have helped.
And then you could have had Stryker come up and say, "Can I help you?" and him have flash to the older guy, like coming out of his reminiscence.
The book does go into a lot of detail of Ben as a kid in there and stuff. So it's pretty neat.
So that's building up the tension there.
Yeah, yeah. But and I get it when you go to film it versus writing, it's a whole different medium, and you're dealing with a lot of things.
I just feel like I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just going to say what I said earlier. I just feel like his character, David Soul's character, Ben Mears, his wife should have been killed and he should have been on the hunt at this point. If you're going to change the story so much as they did already, give it that extra oomph. So the watcher, such as me, I was expecting to find out that his wife was killed by Stryker and
it would have made a different story. That's for sure.
Yeah, because then you would have understood him standing outside the house like, how do I kill this guy? How do I kill this guy? How do I'm
going to have to go research and see what the book says about his wife. I'm curious of that. It's been a long time since I read it.
Well, in this, they just say that she died in a car accident.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was like, that seems, unless Straker ran her off the road.
It is weird how the movie starts off and here he is looking at the house. And it's like, why is this guy obsessed with the house? And we really, it's kind of weak. It's kind of weak because you as the viewer are not brought into what a reader would have already known.
Right. And don't take this as disliking or knocking down this movie anymore.
Yeah.
It just has an awkward start. But again, when you look at it from like our age, guys our age used to watch these shows, it's a 2-night movie. It's one long movie, 3 hours, 3+ hours.
Everybody got together and watched these events. Down
and everybody's watching the same thing and everybody's talking about it. And your dad or mom is saying, "Shut up, I'm watching the movie."
Yeah. Because it's not like you can pause.
Yeah, there's no pause back in the 70s, folks.
No.
You didn't. I know, right? You don't pause.
3 channels, no pause.
Yeah. And you better be on the channel that you want to watch.
And if you're lucky, you got to see it in color.
Because if you miss something 5 minutes of the first 5 minutes of your show, you're lost for the whole show. There's no rewind.
No, I don't miss that.
VHSs were just starting to get popular.
And they were the size of a Volkswagen.
And they were expensive, man. You didn't just go out and buy a VHS tape.
No.
Not unless you were well-to-do.
Nope. Not at all. So what are your final thoughts on Salem's Lot 1979?
Hey, I'm glad you suggested it. Let me put it that way. Let's start with, I really like the suggestion. I thought, like I said, right before it started really rolling, I thought I was going to have a completely different conversation with you.
I had a feeling it's like,
why?
I was like, I need to send Dave a text and say, hang on, it is going to ramp up. And it does.
But it was almost like right after I texted you is when things started getting interesting. The kids walking through the forest and you know, all that starts. I like it. It took some building up. I do still believe it could be edited if somebody's out there and got the proper editing equipment and they know how to edit a film. They could probably make a really good shorter version of this. They could probably cut out a solid 30 minutes and make it go a little bit quicker, a little bit faster paced. Get the tension in there where you really want the tension. You know what I mean? But yeah, folks, if you rent it, go rent the damn thing. I did. It was well worth it. I enjoyed it. I like a good vampire movie. I only have one question. Vampires aren't allowed to come in your house unless you're invited in.
Mm-hmm.
Barlow was never invited into that kid's house.
No. That's
neither was Stryker. Now Stryker could have been in there because he's human. He was human. Whatever he was.
Well, we don't know.
Because he lifts that one guy up with no problem and just beams him to the wall.
Took a whole lot of bullets, so I don't know if Stryker's actually dead.
He was probably a ghoul of some sort.
Well,
I'm guessing. Well, but he could be killed.
Rewind. Mark is in his bedroom with the Glick boys, and they pick up a mask. What is this? And he's like, it's a ghoul. Why would they talk about that if Stryker wasn't a ghoul?
Exactly. I mean, that's what I started thinking. But he wound up going down with 6 shots in him from a 38.
That's what we saw.
That's what we saw. Again, would be interesting sequel.
Yeah.
But Barlow was never invited into the home, and yet he was in the home.
That's an interesting question, one I didn't even catch. Yeah, he came right through the damn window.
Because even the kids had to, I mean, unless he was that powerful.
Well, he did seem to have a lot of power. I love the design of Barlow. We have Nosferatu all over this motherfucker.
Definitely Nosferatu. That's what a vampire looks like, folks. Be careful what you wish for. If you say, "Oh, I'd love to be a vampire," that's what you're going to look like.
Only if I can be Gary Oldman.
Mr. Barlow. You don't look like yourself in being sexy and always young. You look like Barlow.
You don't come out of Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, there's no shiny vampires.
Yeah.
Your evil shows on the outside.
That's a shame, because I've always wanted to look like Antonio Banderas, but you know,
who doesn't?
I know, right?
Who doesn't? And have that goddamn accent.
I know. Damn Spaniards. Anyway,
how are you today? I am Puss in Boots.
Love his portrayal of Puss in Boots. Anyway. So, I'd like to thank you all for joining us again for yet another episode of Old Ass Movies as we went to the Old Ass 1979s. And hey, take a moment to subscribe, share, hit like, drop us a line. Tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't. And be sure and tune in next week for something else. Not sure what, but it'll be entertaining.
What is next week? We'll come up with something.
We will. It'll be something. It'll be a movie. I promise you that.
Probably a horror flick, because we're going through probably up to December. Up to
Christmas. I think we're rolling horror to Christmas.
Weird Halloween-y type movies.
Yeah, sounds good. Why not? Thanks again, folks, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye.